You're at your computer looking at retirement calculators, and every single one of them is telling you the same thing. You need $1 million to retire, maybe more. And you're thinking, there's no way I'm hitting that number. I'm doomed to work until I'm 80, aren't I? Here's the question nobody's actually asking. How many Americans actually retire as millionaires? The answer is gonna blow your mind. But here's what's even more interesting. The entire premise that you need 7 figures to retire comfortably might be completely wrong for your situation. We're going to explore the alternative paths that don't require hitting millionaire status, reveal the shocking percentage of people who actually make it to 7 figures, and show you why the $1 million number might be the worst target you could aim for. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it helps clarify things for you. Let's start by talking about who actually becomes a millionaire retiree, because it's probably not who you think. These aren't lottery winners or tech startup founders or people who inherited a fortune from their great aunt Ethel. The typical millionaire retiree is someone who started saving early, stayed consistent, and let time do the heavy lifting. Here's where compound interest becomes your best friend or your biggest regret, depending on when you started. Let's say you're 25 years old and you start putting away $500 per month into a retirement account, earning an average 7% annual return. By the time you're 65, you'll have over $1.2 million. You contributed $240,000 of your own money, and compound interest added almost $1 million on top of that. But here's the thing that makes this so psychologically brutal. If you wait until you're 35 to start, you need to save almost $800 per month to hit the same target. Wait until 45, and you're looking at over $1,700 per month. The math doesn't care about your excuses. It just compounds, or it doesn't. Now, you might be thinking, that's great for people who started early, but I didn't. I'm 38, and I have $17,000 in my retirement account, and a car payment that makes me nauseous. This is where most financial advice goes completely off the rails, because it treats retirement success like it's binary. You're either a millionaire, or you're broke. You either retire at 65 sipping margaritas on a beach, or you're working at Walmart as a greeter until you physically can't stand anymore. That's not reality. Retirement exists on a spectrum, and there are dozens of paths to financial independence that don't require hitting some arbitrary 7-figure target. But before we get into those paths, here's the question that's probably eating at you. So how many people actually pull this off? How many Americans actually retire as millionaires? I'm going to tell you that number in just a minute. But first we need to talk about why $1 million might be completely wrong for you. Because once you understand how retirement math actually works, that 13% statistic, wait, did I just give it away? Anyway, once you understand the real math, you'll realize that chasing millionaire status might be the most inefficient path to the retirement you actually want. All right, let's rip off the Band-Aid. Only 13% of Americans retire as millionaires. 13%. That means 87% of retirees never hit that 7-figure mark that every retirement calculator and financial guru tells you is mandatory for a comfortable retirement. Now, before you spiral into an existential crisis, let's talk about what this actually means. Does this mean 87% of Americans are living in poverty during retirement, eating cat food and choosing between medication and electricity? No. Most of them are doing fine. Some are doing great. They just didn't need $1 million to get there. So where did this $1 million number even come from? It's not based on some scientific analysis of what humans need to survive in retirement. It's a marketing number that sounds impressive and round and achievable enough to not be completely demoralizing. Financial advisors love it because it's easy to remember, and it sounds like a real target. But here's the thing. Your actual retirement needs have nothing to do with hitting some arbitrary milestone that sounds good in a headline. Let's talk about the 4% rule, because this is where retirement math actually starts making sense. The 4% rule says you can withdraw 4% of your retirement savings each year without running out of money. So if you have $1 million, you can safely withdraw $40,000 per year. That's where the $1 million target comes from. It's reverse engineered from the assumption that you need $40,000 per year to live on. But what if you don't need $40,000 per year? What if you need $30,000? Suddenly, you only need $750,000 saved. Need $50,000 per year? You need $1.25 million. The target isn't $1 million. The target is 25 times your annual expenses. That's it. That's the whole formula. Here's where it gets really interesting. Your annual expenses are heavily influenced by where you live. If you're retiring in San Francisco, your rent alone might be $3,000 per month. That's $36,000 per year, just for housing. Add in food, transportation, healthcare, and entertainment, and you're easily looking at $70,000 per year in expenses. That means you need $1.75 million saved. But if you retire in a small town in Alabama, you can buy a house outright for $150,000. No rent, no mortgage. Your property taxes might be $1,000 per year. Your cost of living drops so dramatically that you could live comfortably on $30,000 per year. Suddenly, you only need $750,000 saved, not $1.75 million. This is the part that nobody talks about. Lifestyle design determines your retirement number, not the other way around. You don't need to earn more and save more to hit some magical target. You can redesign your life to match the savings you can actually achieve. That's not settling. That's being strategic about the life you want versus the life some retirement calculator told you that you need. Now let's talk about how your parents' generation retired without being millionaires. They had something that's become almost mythical in today's economy: pensions. Your dad worked at the same company for 30 years, and when he retired, he got a check every month for the rest of his life. No $1 million required. Just a guaranteed income stream that covered the bills. Most of us don't have pensions anymore. We got switched to 401k plans where we're responsible for everything, contributing the money, choosing the investments, not panicking and selling everything when the market drops 20%. It's like they handed us the keys to a fighter jet and said good luck, figure it out. But here's the thing. Social Security still exists, and it's covering more of your retirement than you probably think. The average Social Security benefit right now is around $1,800 per month. That's $21,600 per year. If you earned more during your working years, you might get closer to the maximum benefit of around $3,700 per month. That's $44,400 per year. Suddenly, we're not starting from zero anymore. Let's do some real math here. Say you're getting $2,000 per month from Social Security. That's $24,000 per year. If you need $45,000 per year to live comfortably, you only need to cover the $21,000 gap. Using the 4% rule, you need $525,000 saved, not $1 million. You just cut your retirement savings target in half because Social Security is doing heavy lifting you weren't accounting for. Now, I know what you're thinking. Social Security is going broke. I'm never going to see that money. I should just plan like it doesn't exist. Here's the reality. Social Security isn't going anywhere. The trust fund might run out around 2034, but that doesn't mean benefits disappear. It means benefits get reduced to whatever payroll taxes can cover, which is estimated at around 77% of current benefits. Not ideal, but also not zero. Even if benefits get cut by 23%, you're still looking at substantial guaranteed income for life. Planning like Social Security won't exist at all is like planning for a meteor strike. Possible? Sure. Likely enough to base your entire retirement strategy around? Probably not. Here's where it gets even better. If you have even a small pension on top of Social Security, you're in incredibly good shape. Let's say you worked for the government or a union job for 20 years, and you're getting $1,250 per month from a pension. That's $15,000 per year. Add that to your $2,000 per month Social Security, and you're at $39,000 per year in guaranteed income before you touch a single dollar of your savings. If you need $50,000 per year to live on, you only need to cover an $11,000 annual gap. That requires $275,000 in savings. You're nowhere near millionaire status, but you're retiring comfortably with guaranteed income covering almost 80% of your expenses. This is why government jobs and union positions are so underrated from a retirement planning perspective. Everyone's chasing six-figure tech salaries, but the postal worker with a pension is going to retire with more financial security than the software engineer who spent 20 years job hopping without building any guaranteed income streams. I'm not saying you should become a mailman just for the pension, but I'm also not saying that. Now let's talk about the strategy that makes financial advisors uncomfortable because it challenges the assumption that you need to stay exactly where you are for the rest of your life. It's called geographic arbitrage. And it's just a fancy way of saying, move somewhere your money goes further. Here's the math that changes everything. A 2-bedroom apartment in Manhattan costs around $4,500 per month. That's $54,000 per year just for rent. A comparable two-bedroom house in Tulsa, Oklahoma that you can buy outright costs $180,000. Your property taxes and insurance might run you $3,000 per year. You just freed up $51,000 annually by changing your zip code. But it gets even more interesting when you look at international options. You can retire in Portugal on a couple's budget of around $2,500 per month, including rent, food, healthcare, and entertainment. That's $30,000 per year. In Thailand, specifically in Chiang Mai, you're looking at $1,500 per month for a comfortable lifestyle. That's $18,000 per year. Using the 4% rule, you need $450,000 saved to retire in Thailand versus $1.8 million to maintain the same quality of life in Seattle. Let me repeat that because it's kind of insane. You need 4 times less money to retire internationally in certain locations. 4 times. That's not a rounding error. That's a completely different retirement timeline. If you're 45 years old with $300,000 saved and you're panicking because you'll never hit the $1 million target, you could retire right now in Mexico or Costa Rica and live comfortably for the rest of your life. Now, I know what you're thinking. I can't just move to Thailand. My family is here. My friends are here. My identity is tied to this place. And that's totally valid. But here's the question you need to ask yourself. Is your identity worth working an extra 15 years? Because that's the trade-off we're talking about. Your attachment to your current location might be costing you a decade and a half of freedom. You don't have to move to Southeast Asia. Domestic geographic arbitrage works too. Retiring in Florida or Texas or Tennessee instead of California or New York can cut your cost of living by 30 to 40%. That might be the difference between retiring at 62 versus 70. And you're still in the United States, still close enough to visit family, still speaking English and eating food that doesn't make your stomach question your life choices. Here's the healthcare consideration that makes this complicated. Medicare works everywhere in the US, but it doesn't cover you internationally. If you retire abroad before 65, you need private international health insurance, which can run you $300 to $600 per month depending on your age and coverage. After 65, many retirees do what's called healthcare tourism. They come back to the US for a few months each year for major medical care and handle routine stuff abroad where it's cheaper. I can already hear your family's reaction when you announce you're retiring to Chiang Mai. Your mom's going to ask if you're joining a cult. Your brother's going to make jokes about you teaching English to pay for pad thai. But here's the thing. They're not the ones lying awake at 3 in the morning wondering if they'll ever be able to stop working. You are, and geographic arbitrage might be the strategy that actually gets you there. Here's another path that completely reframes what retirement even means. It's called Barista FIRE. And before you roll your eyes at another acronym from the financial independence community, hear me out. This strategy might cut your retirement savings target in half. Barista FIRE is simple. You work part-time in retirement, specifically for healthcare benefits and supplemental income. The name comes from the idea of working at Starbucks 20 hours per week because they offer health insurance to part-time employees. But it doesn't have to be Starbucks. It can be any part-time gig that covers your healthcare and brings in enough money to reduce your withdrawal rate from your savings. Let's run the math. Say you need $45,000 per year to live on. Under traditional retirement math, you need $1.125 million saved. But what if you work part-time, making $15 per hour for 20 hours per week? That's $300 per week, or $15,600 per year. Plus, your employer covers your health care, which saves you another $6,000 to $8,000 annually in insurance premiums. Suddenly, you only need to cover a $23,000 gap from your savings instead of $45,000. Using the 4% rule, you need $575,000 saved instead of $1.125 million. You just cut your retirement target almost in half by agreeing to work 20 hours per week doing something low stress that gets you out of the house. Now let's talk about Coast FIRE, which is even more interesting. Coast FIRE means you've saved enough that compound interest will grow your nest egg to your retirement target by retirement age, even if you never contribute another dollar. You still work to cover your current living expenses, but you're not saving for retirement anymore. That money pressure just evaporates. Here's how this works. Say you're 35 years old with $150,000 already saved for retirement. If that money grows at 7% annually for 30 years, it'll be worth $1.14 million by the time you're 65. You're done saving for retirement. You've hit Coast FIRE. Now you can take a lower-paying job you actually enjoy, or work part-time, or start a business that might not make much money for a few years. You're financially independent in the sense that your future is handled. You just need to cover today. The psychological shift here is massive. You're not retired in the traditional sense where you never work again, but you're also not trapped in the full-time grind, sacrificing your present to save for a future that might never come. You're financially independent, but choosing to stay engaged with work on your terms. This is where the identity shift really matters. You're not introducing yourself as retired. You're introducing yourself as someone who consults 3 days per week, or teaches yoga in the mornings, or does freelance writing when you feel like it. You're working because you want to, not because you have to. That distinction changes everything about how work feels. The creative options here are endless. If you spent 30 years in marketing, you can consult for 10 hours per week at $75 per hour. That's $39,000 per year working part-time. If you're a teacher, you can tutor or teach online courses. If you're in tech, you can do contract work or advise startups. You're leveraging decades of expertise on your schedule, covering your expenses, and never touching your retirement savings. However, these strategies won't work unless you sell the following 7 things that will bankrupt you in retirement.